Resource Management. I'm Andrew.
Christy, Jisoo, Alexia, Stephanie.
The greatest act of civil disobedience in Canada started from a quiet forest called Clayoquot Sound. The silence was broken by protesters struggling to stop the clear-cutting technique. However, in British Columbia, the province depended on its $13 billion timber industry, where 20% of the total jobs dealt were with cutting down trees. This continuous need for trees placed more pressure on Clayoquot Sound. Mechanization and the removal of a lot of forests have already weakened the already declining industry, which has put a lot more pressure on Clayoquot Sound. As loggers moved in, protesters chained themselves to trees and refused to move out. Greenpeace went around the world, persuading foreign markets around the world to not buy the wood.
Several prominent British companies actually severed contracts with Macmillan Bloedel, a multinational lumber company that dealt with Canadian lumber. This outside pressure persuaded many voters to vote for environmental reform and restrict logging practices. At the next election, the new government of British Columbia reversed many of the policies. As circumstances grew tense, a compromise was reached between partisans of the issue. Logging companies agreed to use eco-friendly methods in logging and to leave the Clayoquot Sound alone. Global news coverage spread massive awareness and brought in many tourists to the area. This new level of ecotourism has revitalized the declining economy and has actually become a prominent sector of the British Columbian economy.
We need to manage the resources that we take from the world because, as we learned in Chapter 1, some resources are non-renewable. On the other hand, if we do not exploit renewable sources carefully, they will be unavailable as they once were, such as soil, fresh water, wildlife and fishery, rangeland, and timber. Resource management is the practice of harvesting potentially renewable resources in ways that do not deplete them. Resource managers are influenced by political, economic, and social factors. Natural resources serve essential functions in the ecosystem that they're involved in.
Soils are important because they play a central role in agriculture. They support the plants we grow for food and fibers. In fact, U.S. National Park Service defines soil as the unconsolidated portion of the Earth's crust modified through physical, chemical, and biotic processes into a medium capable of supporting plant growth. Healthy soils also help support forests and other natural communities. Soils are important because they play a central role in agriculture.
Freshwater is not only necessary for humans and animals, but also for agriculture. Waterways are crucial for a functioning ecosystem. Going beyond agricultural water productivity is one of the main focuses for the World Bank for the past couple months. It focuses on the problem of growing water scarcity in many parts of the world. Water managers try to protect freshwater by guarding against pollution.
Before the practice of agriculture, people were hunters and gatherers. Managers regulate the hunting of game animals at a desired level of population. Harvesting marine animals is also another issue. Up to 2009, over 90 million tons of fish were captured in China alone. Although there is a management for fisheries, the number of marine lives are decreasing around the world. Humans use fish and shellfish as food and medicine. However, they are important to the ecosystem as well.
As we learned in Chapter 10, most of our meat today comes from concentrated animals feeding operation, or feedlots. These feedlots can be beneficial to countries with a high level of meat consumption. However, before the invention of feedlot, they have traditionally been raised on the open grassland. Overgrazing grassland can damage soil and nearby waterways.
Our society will continue to rely on minerals until we achieve a closed-loop economy. We manage these mineral resources differently compared to other renewable natural resources because minerals are non-renewable sources that we mined. The process of mining is also degrading our environment. Mining causes erosion and water and air pollution.
Maximum sustainable yield is the aim to achieve maximum amount of resource extraction without depleting the resources from one harvest to the next. For example, a fishery manager will not overharvest the fish on the first harvest because they want to keep the fish population at an intermediate level so that they can rebound quickly after each harvest. Although maximum sustainable yields sound ideal at first, in the long run it will alter the ecosystem and have effects on other species and on the food web dynamic.
Managers today are attempting to manage the harvesting of resources while minimizing its impacts on the ecosystem, as well as ecological processes involved in the extraction. The Scientific Panel for Sustainable Forest Practices proposed a plan in 1995, which was then approved by the British Columbian government. They suggested on implementing EBM in 3 ways. First, by carefully managing ecologically important areas such as the riparian corridor, which are unique plant communities consisting of the vegetation growing near a natural body of water. Second, by considering patterns at a landscape level, which, if you guys remember in the past chapters, is larger than an ecosystem but smaller than a biome. Third, by affording protection to some forested areas. The main goal of EBM is sustainability. Although EBM has gained tons of support, managers are still quite iffy because ecosystems are complex and our understanding on how they function is very limited. With EBM comes adaptive management. Not all approaches are successful, therefore prudent managers would try until they find an effective one. Adaptive management is the systematic testing of different management approaches to improve methods over time. It is adjusted as needed based on knowledge gained from past experiences. Through adaptive management, we are able to identify a fusion of both science and management because for this process, hypotheses are explicitly tested in order to find out what does work and what doesn't. Sounds good, right? Yes. Unfortunately, this process is time-consuming and hard to implement because bad habits are hard to break and certain people refuse to change their ways. Adaptive management was first featured in the Northwest Forest Plan administered by the Clinton administration in 1994. The plan was implemented in hopes of resolving conflicts between loggers and preservationists.